Welcome to the Coalition of Technology and Partnership. In the modern world, the roles of teachers and students are rapidly changing. Technology is replacing traditional mediums, and lecture-based learning is being replaced by project-based learning in the classroom. As teachers, it is our job to adapt to these changes, but we need to understand these changes in order to adapt. How do we get students interested in what we want as teachers?
Well, the simple answer is we have to use mediums that they understand, such as technology.
I agree. I think technology is an awesome thing because it can connect people from all over the world together in one place.
It's really true.
What is partnership?
Partnership is the process of reassessing the roles of the teacher and the student in the classroom.
Yes, it's where the teacher and students actually partner up, and I've seen some examples of where the parents even are involved.
Exactly, yeah. It's actually a process of teachers, parents, everybody getting involved in the educational process. And it's really more about, as the name implies, partnership rather than just the traditional I'm the teacher, you're the student format, I'm going to lecture at you.
How can technology encourage partnership?
Technology can encourage partnership by the teacher's role in partnership is to actually teach students how to use technology to their advantage. So by teachers teaching students to use technology to their advantage, the teacher is therefore fulfilling his role or her role in the partnership.
I agree 100% with everything you said.
How are students and teachers' roles changing?
Well, in the traditional format, the student's role was to sit there and do exactly what the teacher said and learn from a lecture. But now it's more of an interactive process. Students should be engaging themselves in learning, using the teacher as a guide.
Yes, I agree, and also engaging each other. I can remember examples of back in the day in high school when, it was just a lecture and that was it. There was no involvement at all, or more than that.
Right, that's a really good point. I think education as a whole is shifting more towards project-based learning, and we as partners in the education process should really dig into that.
I agree. I was going to ask you just for a few examples of project-based learning.
Project-based learning, well, in the history department, I suppose you could really do Socratic circles or things like that. That's not really project-based learning, but it is interactive learning. Project-based learning really can and cannot be centered around technology. I think it's good. The narrator of the book, rather, not the narrator, the author of the book's point is that technology is moving society in a forward direction, and a lot of project-based learning should be based around using technology to collaborate and be used as a tool, really just familiarizing students with technology.
Should teachers encourage students' passions?
Absolutely. That's one of the main roles of a teacher, is to encourage students to pursue their passions, and if they don't know what their passion is, to help students find their passion.
I agree again, and like the book says, I think Prinsky touches on that's a big issue that students aren't finding their passion, and even in some instances
Right.
where teachers are it's all about the teacher's passion instead of the student's passion, and we're seeing that more and more, and hopefully we'll see that change.
That's a really good point. I've never really thought about it that way, but students it really has been more about the teacher's passion rather than the student's passion, and education really is about an interactive process, so the students play just as much a role as the teachers do in the learning process.
How can technology and partnership help students develop the skills they need to succeed?
Well, a main point of partnership and using technology is to teach students to be self-learners and interactive learners, and this is the skill they're going to carry with them for the rest of their lives. We don't need them to completely rely on themselves in the education process, because then there would be no point for a teacher, but the role of a teacher should be a guide to help students help themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think back to Sagata Matra's example of working with this, or putting the computers up in India and small villages and stuff where a lot of poverty, and their interest in the computer, and they learn for themselves. And I think, if we had a teacher there to just guide them in that process, it would even, that just proved
Right.
butchered this.
That's a really good point. The school children in India, they prove themselves that, they could be self-learners without a teacher. So imagine how much help an interactive teacher could be to the learning process. That's what partnership is about both parties fulfilling their roles and propelling education in a forward direction and making our society better.
Do you guys have any closing remarks you would like to add?
Yeah, I'll go into a little bit of detail about how I plan to implement, technology and collaborative learning in my classroom. And one example that I actually think of, and goes back to some may call me a nerd for this, but I like video games, and with the increase in historical video games coming out, like games such as Assassin's Creed 3 and even Call of Duty to some extent, like you can relive like moments from the past and stuff. Of course,
Right.
it's important to make sure that it's accurate, but I think actually, I know at least for boys,
Right.
young men, they like video games and
Right.
enjoy it. And I think it's something we could take advantage of.
That's a really good point. Maybe in the future we could see. Right now, educational video games seem to be kind of, not very fun and kind of shallow. But some of those old Call of Duty games were very accurate to like the Storm of Normandy and things like that. And they really make it come alive for some of these students.
Yeah, definitely.
And through reading the book, I've come to really get a whole new view of partnership in general. I think it makes a lot of sense that both roles need to be reassessed for a future world. And students need to be able to learn the skills in school that are going to help them throughout their life. Otherwise, I suppose there's no point to school unless they're going to carry with them what they learn through the rest of their lives.
Society is constantly changing and evolving. As teachers, our role is to change and adapt with society in order to encourage competent, effective learners and leaders.